In the shadows of history lie stories that are both heartbreaking and powerful, tales of human endurance in the face of unimaginable cruelty. One of such story is that of Rogue Jose Florencio, also known as Pata Seca, a man whose name has become infamous for being forced to father over 200 children during his life as a slave in the 19th century Brazil. His journey, however, did not end there. This is the story of Pata Seca, a man who survived the atrocities of slavery, lived to see freedom, and carved out a life for himself and his family, despite a world that sought to dehumanize him. Our story begins in the 19th century in Brazil, a country built on the backs of millions of enslaved Africans. From the 16th to the 19th century, nearly 5 million enslaved Africans were brought to Brazil to labor in the sugarcane fields, coffee plantations, and mines. As the transatlantic slave trade waned, Brazil enslavers found a new chilling way to sustain their workforce by forcing enslaved people to breed. And that is where the story of Pata Seca, meaning dry fruit in Portuguese, begins. Though much of his early life remains shrouded in mystery, what is known is that Pata Seca was singled out for his physical strength and resilience and was forced into the horrifying role of a breeder on the plantations. In the brutal world of Brazilian slavery, enslaved people were treated as property, commodities to be bought, sold, and exploited. For plantation owners, having enslaved women give birth to children who would also be enslaved was a grim economic strategy. Strong men like Pata Seca were seen as valuable breeding stock. Pata Seca, under the orders of his enslavers, was forced to father children with multiple enslaved women. He had no choice in the matter. His body, his anatomy, and his dignity were stripped from him. Over the course of his life, it is said that he fathered over 200 children, each born into the life of bondage. These children were sold, used for labor, or further exploited by their owners, perpetuating the vicious circle of slavery. But Pata Seca's story did not end with the horrors of forced breeding. In 1888, the Golden Law was passed, officially abolishing slavery in Brazil, the last country in the Americas to do so. For Pata Seca and millions of other enslaved Africans, this was a monumental shift, but freedom did not come with immediate relief. The road ahead was fraught with challenges. When the chains of slavery were broken, Pata Seca, now an older man, found himself free but with limited means. His enslaver gave him a piece of land, and Brazil had offered no reparations, no land, and no system of support for the newly freed population. Many freed people, including Pata Seca, struggled to find work and a place in the society that had been built on their exploitations. Despite the incredible hardship he faced, Pata Seca managed to survive and even reunited with some of his children. Legend has it that he later married his wife and they had 9 children. While many of his other children had been sold off to distant plantations, some remained in the same region and Pata Seca tried to create bonds with them. His descendants, like many others, grew up in Brazil and was beginning to grapple with the consequences of slavery. Today, up to 30% of the current population of Santa Eudis San Carlos trace their lineage back to him. Some of Pata Seca's children and grandchildren went on to form small communities, finding strength in their shared heritage and memories of the past. He passed away peacefully on June 13, 1958, at the age of 130, having lived a life of extraordinary length and impact. For freed men like Pata Seca, the transition to freedom was anything but easy. The Brazilian government offered little support to its newly emancipated population, and many formerly enslaved people faced poverty, discrimination, and exclusion. But some, like Pata Seca, found a way to survive through sheer resilience and determination. Pata Seca found work as a laborer in his later years. Though he had been broken in many ways by the brutality of slavery, he managed to piece a life together, one where he finally had some measure of control. His legacy, however, was not just his survival, but the lives of the descendants he carried on in the face of adversity. Today, Pata Seca's story serves as a stark reminder of the horrors of slavery, but also of the resilience of the human spirit. Though forced to father over 200 children, Pata Seca lived to see the end of slavery, to forge relationship with his family and leave behind a legacy of survival. His descendants are part of the Brazilian's large Afro-Brazilian population, a community that continues to fight for recognition, equality, and the acknowledgement of the brutal past that shaped their existence. The descendants of Pata Seca and countless other enslaved Africans are vital threads in the fabric of Brazil's modern society. The struggle for equality, justice, and remembrance continues, but the story of Pata Seca reminds us that even in the face of overwhelming oppression, survival in its own is a form of resistance. The life of Pata Seca is a testament to both the cruelty of slavery and the indomitable will of those who lived through it. As we remember his story, we also honor the countless others who endured similar fates. By sharing these stories, we ensure that the legacy of those who were enslaved is never forgotten. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of Pata Seca. His story is one of unimaginable hardship, but also of perseverance and strength. If this story moved you, please share it with others so that the voices of those who suffered under slavery can continue to be heard. Don't forget to to subscribe to our channel for more stories from the history that were never told. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep sharing the stories that matter.